The fastest way to kill a growing brand is to expand too early. Not to fail to expand, not to expand into the wrong market, to expand before you're ready. And most founders who do it have no idea that's what's happening. They think they're making a bold move. They're actually pulling a pin on a grenade. Here's the dangerous thing about premature expansion. It looks exactly like growth, right up until it doesn't. You're in new markets, revenue is climbing, the team is excited, and investors are definitely interested. From the outside, everything looks like it's working. But underneath, cash is tightening, margins are eroding, operations are straining at the seams. And by the time you see it clearly, you're already in the middle of it. Timing, that's the thing. Timing is everything in expansion. So why does this keep happening? Because the trigger to expand is almost always emotional, not logical. Domestic growth slows and that feels uncomfortable. It feels like something is wrong. So founders look for a new horizon, and expansion feels like the answer. In fact, I've even said that in previous videos. It is an answer. Or there's pressure from investors, from the board, from competitors who are already moving. Or there's excitement, a conversation with a potential distributor, a big trade show, a trip abroad that makes you feel like the world is waiting for you. And none of those are bad things to feel. But they're not a strategy. They're not a signal that you're ready. They're just pressure. And when you act on pressure instead of data, you move before it's time. So what does premature expansion actually look like on the inside? Cash flow becomes the constant conversation because you're funding new markets, stock, marketing, people, infrastructure, before those markets are generating a meaningful return. And the home market isn't growing enough to carry it. So you're pulling from reserves that were never meant for this. Margins start to compress because when you scale operations too fast, inefficiency starts to creep in. You're paying for logistics you haven't optimized, you're absorbing return rates you haven't figured out yet, duties you didn't model properly. The business starts to lose money on international sales, even as the revenue grows. It's typical in the first part of an expansion, and that's okay. And then a team hits a wall. Because international expansion is hard. It requires focus, problem solving, iteration. If your team is already stretched running the home market, adding international doesn't give them energy. It takes it. And stretched teams just make mistakes. Instead of scaling, you're stretching. And stretched businesses break. So how do you know if you're in this position? Here are the real signals. Your margins aren't clear. You know the top line number, but you can't tell me with confidence what you're making after fulfillment, returns, acquisition costs, overheads in your home market. If you can't see it clearly at home, you definitely won't be able to see it internationally. Your operations have unresolved issues. Fulfillment delays, customer service, backlogs, stock accuracy problems. Any cracks in the domestic operation will become fractures when you scale them internationally. Your reporting is unreliable. You're making decisions based on instinct or incomplete data rather than clean numbers. International expansion demands even better visibility. Not the same. Your cash position is already tight. If you're regularly watching the account or stretching supplier terms at home, adding international overhead will put you under serious pressure. Any of these should give you pause. Multiple of them is a clear signal you're not ready. So what does ready look like? Strong, understood margins. You know exactly what you make per unit, per channel, per customer. And the number is healthy enough to absorb some compression as you enter new markets. Clean, documented operations. Your team isn't firefighting. There are systems in place. Things run without you having to intervene in them daily. Predictable demand at home. You've got consistent, repeatable revenue in your home market. You understand your customers, your seasonality, your conversion rates. Nothing is a mystery. A cash buffer, ideally 6 months of operating costs in reserve, because international expansion will always take longer and cost more than you expect. That buffer is what buys you time to iterate. A clear, specific reason to enter the market you're targeting. Not there's opportunity there, but here's the data, here's the demand signal, here's why this market and why now. When those conditions are true, expansion stops becoming a risk. It becomes the multiplier you want. Here's the mindset shift that changes everything. Expansion isn't a growth strategy, it's an amplifier. And amplifiers don't fix problems, they magnify whatever's already there. If your unit economics are going to be strong, expansion makes them stronger. If your operations are efficient, expansion makes them more efficient. But if your margins are thin, expansion makes them thinner. If your cash flow is fragile, expansion makes it more fragile. If your team is overwhelmed, expansion overwhelms them further. The question isn't can we expand? The question is, what will expansion amplify? If the honest answer is strong foundations, clean systems, and healthy margins, then expand, now aggressively. If the honest answer is uncertainty, strain, and complexity, fix that first. Expand second. So here's what I want you to take from this video. Expansion is one of the most powerful tools available to a growing brand. It's what e-commerce was designed for. Done right, it unlocks growth curves that your domestic market can never give you. It gives you new demand, better leverage, and the kind of compounding momentum that's very hard for competitors to match. But it only works when the timing is right. Not when the pressure is high, not when excitement takes over, not when a competitor moves and you feel you need to respond. When the fundamentals are solid, when the structure is ready, and when you've genuinely done the work to be prepared. That's the difference between expansion that scales a brand and expansion that quietly breaks one. If you've watched all these videos, you know more about international expansion than most founders who've already done it. You know what happens in reality, what mistakes get made, what the hidden costs are, and what success actually looks like, and how to know when you're ready. The next step is yours. If you want to talk about what expansion actually looks like for your specific brand, then click the link in the description. Because when you do this at the right time with the right structure, expansion doesn't feel painful. It feels inevitable.